Oh, I am so sorry about that. Wow, I had my mic muted this whole time. Darn. Okay, don't be surprised if this stream just suddenly disappears after it's uploaded. Oh, my flame went out as well. Alright, I'm so sorry about that. I didn't understand what because I don't speak Spanish. I think that's Spanish, but maybe Saul was trying to tell me my mic wasn't working this whole time. Yeah, it's still early days for me in the whole streaming setup, so I'm gonna try to make sure that doesn't happen again. But you know what? It's fine. Because I often do just talk to myself anyway while I'm sculpting or doing anything. But yeah, I'm gonna have to put some kind of disclaimer on this video for people so they know that my mic had been muted for a good, how long has it been? Like 20 minutes. So yeah, I'm just gonna pretend that night is more just like a practice stream night. You know, I'm still getting the kinks out. So it's good that there aren't too many people online tonight since it's a Saturday, or at least Saturday where I am. And I will just use this time to catch up on my sculpting and to try out new, I don't know, stream topics, things to talk about. I don't know what to talk about. I just talk about wax. I don't really like to get into like a lot of relevant things, I guess. I'm just like under a rock, or I guess under wax. Why do we scrub the clay? Ah, that's a good question. So, and again, I apologize. My mic was like muted in the beginning, for like 20 minutes. But what I'm doing is I had some face details that I wanted to rework, so I cut them off. And when I did that, the face wasn't really that round anymore. So what I did was I added back some more wax, and you know, I just sort of rubbed it on, try to get as like uniform as possible. And now I'm going back with this, and I'm trying to hit like any low spots. So all I'm doing is I'm heating up this sanding sponge. This is like a medium grit sandpaper with like a sponge foam backing on it, and you can just pass over this flame for like 1 to 2 seconds, and it'll activate the wax, meaning it'll make it malleable again with heat, and it will allow me to, as I scrub it like this, it will sort of even out the surface. So like the more I do this, the rounder it becomes. But it will, you can still like, it can still get deformed. But yeah, I was playing around with my stream settings. I was watching a couple videos, like, okay, what's the best settings to do everything at? And I'm like, because I don't know. I'm still very new to this. And I figured out how to increase my bit rate, because I think like I did one of those online download upload speed tests, and I have like somewhere around 25 megabits per second upload speed, which I think is pretty good. I don't really know. Like, I'm sure there's people who can tell me that there's like, that's like garbage, or, oh, that's actually decent. But I think it's okay for what I'm doing. And so I decided to bump up my bit rate. And hopefully that'll result in a higher quality stream. But hopefully it's not glitching or anything. And why did I want to sculpt a pufferfish? Ooh, good question. I don't know. I was contemplating for a long time about even doing streams. Because I was like, is this even interesting? Do people really want to see someone sit here for like an hour and a half just like wiping the face off of a wax sculpt? And I was like, you know what, it doesn't matter. And then I started thinking about things that I'm interested in. And lately, it's been like animals, like weird animals. Um, so like for instance, I sculpted, and I might have shown this before, but this is a turtle sculpt I made based off of what is known as a giant tortoise, or an algebra tortoise, or algebra turtle. I don't know. Anyway, of course this is not giant, but if it were, it would look something like this. So these things are like maybe 3 feet tall. They're just humongous, and they are like, they can live to be like over 100 years old. Like, they're super cool. They're basically like dinosaurs. So I sculpted this guy, and I was like, okay, what other like weird creature can I sculpt? And I was like, oh, how about like a weird like sea creature? When I was a kid, I had this book called Ocean Life. And that book was really fascinating because it talked about all these weird like aquatic life, and like history of things, like how whales used to have legs and they crawled around on like beaches and stuff, but over time they just like stayed in the water, so their legs just like faded away. And then I was thinking about like, oh, maybe like a fish creature, but I don't want to do a whale. I mean, I could do a whale. And I was like, oh, how about a pufferfish? And I think I was doing, at the time, was like drawing stuff, and I just like, I've been working on this like board game idea, and I drew like this weird pufferfish creature, and I looked at this picture and I was like, huh, like I really like this guy. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try to sculpt something similar to this. And I do like deep sea animals, but funnily enough, I'm like deeply terrified of being in the ocean. Like, even like at a beach, like I do not want to get in the water. Um, I just, I think it's much safer on land. It's not like I'm gonna get sucked into the ocean, right? But like, I'm not a very strong swimmer, but I have a like huge respect for the sea and all the things that are thriving in there, and how, not to sound like some uh like environmentalist or climate change person. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because climate change is very real and we need to protect the earth. But I just, I think that there's so much the ocean has to offer if we just like leave it alone. You know, just let it do its thing. You know, and we'll reap the benefits that way. Um well, I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. What was I doing? Oh yeah. I don't know. Should I even do doing these details right now if I'm gonna remove the spikes? Let's see. Let me just try it. I can always go back. So I want to make the mouth look. But yeah, to answer your question, I do like deep sea creatures. I think there's like we barely know what's going on. Like, we're discovering new species all the time, and we barely have scratched the surface of exploring. Like, it's basically like space at this point. Like, we don't know what's down there. Who knows? Atlantis might be down there. Let me look at a reference picture again. So what I was doing was I wanted to change the sculpt so that it wasn't so cartoony, because I think sometimes you want a little bit more realism to make it look more believable, and some, you know, if it's more realistic, it looks a little bit scarier, right? Versus something that's cartoony, you don't take it as seriously. So actually, I can get rid of these guys because I don't need them. And so I noticed that my mouth was like just too big. and too low. So I wanted to raise it up and also raise the eyes up. And the eyes are actually, I don't think I need this right now. Put that away. Let's see here. And I apologize for not like announcing my streams before I do them. It's really just because I do them at like ad hoc. Like I don't know if I'm gonna have time. I'm still working out like my schedule with school and stuff. Like figuring out like how much time do I need to allow myself for homework and whatnot, you know. So like within the next week, I think I'll have like an actual schedule that I'm gonna try to stick to. It's just right now I'm like working out like how uh how manageable can I make it? Because I do want to leave, like I don't want to book up my time so completely that I don't have time to like be flexible about other stuff. And I'm also trying to figure out like what are the best days to stream, like who's even like around, like who's busy, who's not. But we live in such a huge like internet culture where everything's connected. It's like there's always somebody somewhere just like around, right? Oh yeah, that looks better. Do I want to do that? Can't hurt. Okay, so I wanted that, and then I want like a rounder. I'm realizing now my camera is always like too high up. Okay, that might be better. So I'm always like down here, and my face is like completely cut off. Okay, so I got that, and then I'm gonna stick that in there. Oh, I want it a little bit more bubble-eyed. I just think it's funnier that way. Yeah. Sure. I might remove a little bit of that though. Okay. Now I'm gonna do the same thing. Add like a little bubble eyeball. And it's always good to like knead or like squish the wax while it's still warm to make it like as uniform as possible, because there could be little like hot or cold zones in the wax, which will affect how it moves. So if it's not a uniform like heated material, it's not going to be very smooth when you try to work with it. Okay, yeah, that's looking way better. It's not perfect, but I think I'm getting like more like this is what I envisioned. But that can change. Then I'm gonna make a little mouth. Um, Before I put the mouth on, I'm just gonna heat it again. So I'm just applying a little bit of heat to the area that I'm gonna like stick a fresh piece of wax onto, so that it just bonds better. So you don't have to go too crazy with it. You just make it a little bit hot so that it'll retain that heat better. Okay, this is too much, but that's okay because I'll just work it. Have you seen Half Toys? Oh, hey Shelly. It's good to see you on the stream. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even see your comment earlier when you said hey. Um, Sorry, I'm like so zoned in on this. Have you seen Half Toys? No, I have not seen Half Toys. What is that? What is Half Toys? I'm just gonna guess that it's like either another person here on this platform or other platform who shares toy stuff. I don't know what I'm doing here. I thought this was gonna look good. When I look at it, but you see like how much it changed from like when it had the big eyes and the big mouth more centered and downward, and now all I did was I shrunk them and I moved them up here. It completely changed the expression on this guy. Like, and also like it gave him like a bit more direction because now he's like looking up, right? He's like looking up at you, which is great because he's kind of low down here. Very cool symbol designs. Oh, that sounds really neat. I'm gonna have to check that out. I like that idea a lot. I've been wanting to like sculpt like a skeleton thing for a while, but like I haven't known like what. But I think I will this year because we're getting close to Halloween. I've had this idea for a toy for a long time, but I just never knew how to like do it, and I think I just need to try it. And maybe it won't be exactly what I envisioned, but it'll be like maybe it'll be even better. But it involves the use of like a skeleton and a coffin. So my idea is I wanted to make like basically like it's like a two-part figure thing where you put this figure in this coffin and the figure looks like a regular like person, but you put him in the coffin and then you shake the coffin, and then when you open the coffin again, it's like just bones in there, like a magic trick. But I have no idea how to do that. I was thinking like what if I had like a magnet attachment so that like the body sticks to the lid of the coffin, or there's like a trap door that spins it and then reverses it on the inside. So like as soon as you close it, there's like a spring, and then it like just like spins around really quickly and flips it, almost like freaking like a Scooby-Doo thing. And then it's like the skeleton bones are on the other side. So it's like it looks like when you close it and open it again that the guy just like died in there and now it's just bones. It sounds really morbid, but I thought it'd be funny to put a spin on it. Anyway, that might not happen, but we'll see. Okay, I actually do like this better. Just gonna try to make this mouth a little more even. My style of sculpting is very rough, at least in the beginning stages. Um, I definitely like a cartoony look, but I'm trying to be more realistic these days. But I flip-flop between that. It's more like I kind of just go with the flow and let the wax like dictate. Like, does it want to be like this? Does it want to look like this? Oh, it does. Okay, I'll just go with that. Rather than me just like I'm not one of those sculptors who's like super intensely focused on like, oh, this has to look exactly like the real thing. Because if it doesn't, it loses that illusion. That's like the whole point of this piece is that it's supposed to be like some kind of uh friggin' I don't know. But you know what I'm talking about, right? Like the artists who are like, oh, this is a narrative on like this issue, and I'm like, okay, but this is just a crumpled piece of paper framed on a wall. I don't get it. That's not art to me. Okay, so if you're just joining in, and if you've seen any of my past live streams from the last 2 or 3 days, you'll know that I'm working on a pufferfish. Although it looks kind of like a spiky goldfish or something at this point. And in the previous live stream, the viewers had this cool idea of like we were trying to figure out what's its gimmick, like how do you make it a toy, right, rather than just a sculpt. And we figured, oh, what? Well, it's pufferfish and it has all these spikes. What if things got stuck to it? So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to cut some of these spikes off, see if I can embed like a magnet in the wax, and then stick them back on. But then you can remove the spikes, and there'll be like other like little mini figurines, like a random, like maybe like a fish or like a octopus, like other things that could get stuck to it. So it's like swimming along. This is why I have my whole aquarium background set up. It's just like swimming along, and you can always like attach like new things to it. So it's almost like it holds like a collection of things for you all together at once. Is Relix good for prototyping joint, or would it be better if I sculpt around pre-existing joints? I would probably sculpt around pre-existing joints. And I think in the toy industry, they do this too. Like you would never see them sculpt a joint like a ball and socket joint out of wax. They would either use like a magnet. Oh hey again, Delaire. Um, Either use a magnet or they would just use like production ready ball and socket joints that they just like plug into the wax, sculpt around it, and then no matter how many times they push it in and take it out, it's not going to wear away because the wax will wear out over time. And even with like the magnet pieces, grab this guy. You can see like if that's a magnet joint. If you do this enough times, like as you're testing it, it starts to chip. And that's just how wax is. It's kind of brittle. So it's very frustrating to work with wax sometimes, but I like challenging myself to sort of work around those shortcomings because wax still has a lot to offer in terms of like just how great it is to use. Like you don't have to worry about toxic stuff. It's all natural. It's safe to use. You just gotta be careful with like the hot tools and stuff. And you can always melt it down and reuse it versus something that is like a two-part epoxy that hardens and then you bake it, or you bake something and then it hardens and then you can't like go back and change something because like say I wanted to change this guy's face but he was made out of like epoxy putty or like an oven baked clay, that would have been a whole ordeal, right? Like I would have had to like friggin' cut that off with the Dremel because it would have been so hard at that point. Then I'd have to like sand everything smooth again. Then I'd have to put new one on, rebake it. But how long has it been? It's been like 40 minutes. In the span of 40 minutes, I've already like completely changed his face or her face. I don't know. Is it he or she? We'll find out. Um, Completely changed the face, and I can just keep going. And I can just keep reworking it. So it's really up to you. Like there is no right or wrong answer when it comes to the medium of your choice. But for the joints, and I'm sorry I'm rambling. Like I just went into this whole tangent again. God, I'm get so like distracted with my own thoughts sometimes. But yeah, if you're gonna use joints like a ball and socket joint or like a pin joint, you can also use like I don't have it on me, but you can buy these like dowel pins. These like metal dowel pins. They're basically just like little cylinders. And you can stick them in the wax, and then you can like form a hole on the other side, and it should work fine for that. But I just like magnets because they work really easy for me, and the cool thing about magnets is like I don't want to sculpt this guy by holding the whole thing and possibly like dropping it and ruining like a single like part. So what I can do is I can take him off, take this guy and sculpt on this guy, just work on this single piece. But even better what I can do, because holding this is like not very friendly sometimes. I mean, it's good for if you're doing something like you really want to hold it, but your hands have heat. Depending on where you live, the wax, like if the ambient temperature in the air is warmer, the wax may be softer, and so as you're holding it, it starts melting a little bit and sticking to you. Unless you're using like the hard formula. So what you can do is just take like a bunch of magnets, do that, and now you got a little holder that you can just work on. You know? So that's why I like working with magnets. And you know, it's just fun, right? Magnets are just super fun. Just be careful because some of them are really strong. Like these are pretty strong. Like if I put my finger in between, it probably would, ow, would pinch it a little bit. What was I doing? Oh yeah. Okay. So, yeah, we're gonna come back to you one day, buddy. We got bigger fish to fry. Literally. Um, yes, I'm going to do the magnet thing tonight. It's it's getting there. So what I'm actually gonna do it right now. Let's see, which spike should I take off? Like, which one would it look good if? Because I still want him like to look good on the face area, and I don't want to obscure his face, right? Because that's where his like, it'll be funny to see his little face under there while he's like covered in stuff that he's stuck on. Um, so I think I'll cut off this one, and then embed a magnet in that spot. And then I'll sculpt like just a really rough little like fish or something. Maybe you guys can give me a good idea for something that could get stuck to him. Maybe a beach ball. I don't know. Um, yeah. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe you could just be like so spiky that you could literally just like. Okay, I'm thinking about this right now. Like you could take like just like little soft like squishy things like I don't know like a fruit like a grape. Just stick it on because he's so sharp. Oh, but that's dangerous. We don't want that. Okay, my mind went there and then it decided not to go there. Alright, we're just gonna cut this. So again, see how easy it is to just cut through wax? If that was epoxy or something, I would have been like sawing at it. And it'd been really hard to saw something that in that area that's like surrounded by all this other stuff that I'm gonna hit. Would have been a nightmare. So that's why I like wax because it's just so versatile. So the trick to embedding magnets, and I've had to try this a bunch of times before I got something like usable. But the easiest way I found to do this is first you want to prep the area, make sure it like looks somewhat like what you want it to look like after. And then I just like dig in just a little bit. You don't have to go crazy. Take my magnet. And if you're planning to do a certain orientation with the magnets, like you want them all, because you know magnets, they only stick to like one side, right? I mean, they stick to both sides, but only if you orient them in a certain way. So it doesn't matter at the stage because it's the first time we're doing it. So you can be arbitrary with this and just like pick that, you know. And you see that's not hot enough yet, so I'm gonna have to heat it up again. But basically later when we're making the attachment, I'm gonna have to make sure I put the magnet in on the like exactly like this so that they will actually stick and not just repel. Like I can't actually push them together. It wants to flip like that. So we're just gonna dig in a little bit more. Yeah, creativity can be very spontaneous. Yeah, earlier somebody asked, why am I doing a pufferfish? I was like, I don't know. It just felt like it. And I like weird creatures lately. I think it's because I feel like for a long time, and I'm sorry I'm just rambling, but I mean, hey, what else am I going to talk about? I got to fill up this time somehow. How supports the wax, the magnet? Do you use some glue? Nope, you do not have to use any glue. I'm going to show you that right now. So all I'm doing is I'm just melting it a little bit and trying to make like a hole that's going to roughly fit the magnet. You want to make it a little bit undersized because it's going to be hot. And as you push the metal in, the magnet in, it'll just like take that shape. So you want to leave it a little bit small so that it'll still be tight when you push it in. So here we go. Ta-da! Yeah, and you just leave it for a couple seconds. This looks really funny actually. Like it's like a Frankenstein fish. It's got like that bolt or something. Oh, you can see my it's turning invisible because it's like reflecting off the green screen. How funny is that? So yeah, I just left it there for a little bit And before you start like yanking on it, because it's probably gonna like just pull the whole thing out, you want to like seal the deal. All right, so with wax, you always got to seal the deal. And I'm just gonna go around the edges, and I'm trying not to hit the magnet on top because otherwise they're both gonna get stuck, and I don't want that. I want to still be able to pry that one off, but it's not gonna get so stuck that you couldn't do it. It's just that it might crack the surrounding areas if it's like cooled down too fast as you're pulling it, because you do need to let it cool down a little bit so that the surface is nice and hard and that the inner magnet won't just pop out. Now the problem is, of course, if you're gonna mold this thing, how would you leave that space for that magnet? Well, in that case, what you would do is then you would pull the whole magnet out. After you're done like figuring out everything, you pull the whole magnet out. You might need to heat up the area a little bit. Or you fill it back in, and then later you just like drill in, like after you cast the resin piece, you can just use your sculpt for reference and mark the areas you want to drill, and then just drill, like get a drill bit that's exactly this size. We'll start with a smaller drill first, and then make a smaller pilot hole, and then get the actual size, and then just drill out by hand. But I'm not molding this guy, at least not to my knowledge at this time. I'm planning on I'm gonna do these live streams in a way that I get to sculpt, and then I get to have these pieces 3D scanned so that I have like a digital file that I can then share with everyone that'll be free to download. And I'll probably put like a exclusive version or something on a Patreon just to give it some more worth. But I will make like the actual sculpt available for free, so that everyone has a chance to like download it or have a 3D printing service printed. Okay, there you go. So you see the wax has cooled down enough that it just stayed in there and it's not coming out. I can always try to push it in a little bit more, but that's not going anywhere, so that feels pretty good. And this will probably just keep using this for the next one. Yeah. So now that I have that, I can now make a spike that's gonna go there, or maybe instead of a spike, I mean, I guess I'll start with the spike. I'm gonna have to make the spikes bigger. See, I'm glad I didn't try to sculpt this too realistic in the beginning, because in actuality, pufferfish, their spikes aren't like this thick. They're like more skinny and prickly, and then it probably wouldn't have worked. But since we're being imaginary, cartoonish, I can make them thicker. So this is not a good piece to work on because it is too small to hold, too small to even fit the magnet. And these are the only size magnets I have. I'm sure there's like shorter ones that would probably fit in here better, and still stick to this. Just like, you don't need that much friggin', like, these are pretty strong. Like, let's see how far away. Oh, look how strong that is. Well, that's because I also had 3. I only just had 1. Let's see if it's still pretty strong. Yeah. That's so funny. You're pushing and pulling. Wait, what if I did it the other way and just repelled him? Oh, that'd be so funny. Like, oh, if this was like in the water, like a bath toy, and it floated. Oh, but it's too heavy to float. Oh, maybe not. Then you could use like a magnet to like push him through the water. Oh, look at him go. Like, wait, let me do this. Sorry, I promise I'll get back to sculpting. I just wanted to push this little guy. Well, we're gonna start down here. We're gonna end up there. Let's go. He's just. Oh, this could be a game where like you're trying to make the fish go a certain way. Oh my god, I think we. Oh my god, this is amazing. Look at it. It's like actually just getting pushed, and it's only 1 magnet right now. What if I had like a bunch of magnets on here? Oh, this is actually hilarious. Go. Yeah, if this was in the water where there's like way less friction, you would be zooming around like crazy. Oh my god, this I'm gonna have to do this now. I'm gonna have to actually make this a thing. Oh, look. He's like balancing on a spike. Whoa. I wasn't going to make them all magnetic, but now I think I have to. Man, I almost didn't want to sculpt tonight. And look at me now. Friggin'. Because I was like, who's going to be watching? It's a Saturday night. Also, I have like all this catch-up work to do on the wax. Because I'm like reworking it. Does anyone even want to see this? But I'm so glad I did this now because it's just like the idea just keeps evolving. The only thing I'm doing now is I'm just gonna, I don't want to get too embedded in there. Don't use that. Let's use something smaller. That's Galaxy Brain. The game idea has to be the way to go. It's running away from you. Yeah. It's like, no, don't stop putting magnets in me. Like I'm friggin'. Oh, sorry, I'm not in center frame. I'm like still trying to. I'll get better at it, I promise. But yeah, that's like my whole style. I just don't really know what I'm doing until like something just pops up in my head. And then I'm like, oh, that seems like a good direction to take. I don't really plan these out that well. That's never really worked for me, like planning things out. I'm always just been more of a go with the flow kind of guy, which probably explains why I'm going back to college at a later age to relearn some new stuff that I've been interested in for a while. But that's for another day to talk about. But yeah, I'm really happy with that. So I think I'm just gonna keep going. I'm just gonna keep doing it. Now I don't even care if it's a pufferfish anymore at this point. I just want to put magnets in this guy. Is wax run in your veins? I think it might. Okay, so I think that's what I'm gonna do for tonight. I'm just gonna embed magnets all over this baby. And see where that takes us. A magnet fish. You know, this could also be, I was talking a little bit earlier about climate change and save the sea, the ocean, Greenpeace, yeah. But this literally could be like, if I ever got commissioned by one of those like rescue organizations or climate change organizations, this would be a perfect mascot for them because it's like a fish with like magnets in it. So it's like the more like boats or whatever in the water are just, it's just like runs away from them. Like if you put like repelling magnets on boats. Oh, maybe that's the idea. Yes. Also, Gushi, your name every time. I just like I can't keep a straight face. I'm sorry. But yes, I think like there's so many people who make such great sculpts, and they do show you like the whole process. But for like to me, it's never been like the whole process looks friggin' amazing, right? Like they film this, they edit it, every like stroke, every friggin' like push and pull of the clay, like everything looks amazing. For me, it's never like that. I hate the thing I'm making constantly. Like I'm like, this is not gonna work. This doesn't look any good. I hate it the whole time until like at one point you just keep going and you're pushing through and then just like something magical happens and you're like, oh, that's the thing. And then you suddenly get like, once you have that, you're like so attached to it that you're just gonna like die for it basically. Like now I would rather do nothing else than just make this fish into a magnetic toy. I honestly, like the last 2 nights I haven't been that invested in this sculpt, and I don't know if you could tell because I was like, what am I making? I'm just making this weird like pufferfish. But then as soon as that whole like somebody suggested the magnetic thing, and then once I actually tried it and saw what it worked like in real life, I was like, okay, now I'm hooked. Oh, another fish pun for tonight. I'm hooked. Uh, I'm gonna see how many of these fish puns or ocean puns I can slip in, and you guys should feel free to do the same. But yeah, this could be a whole state. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, sorry, my ADD. This could be a whole statement on how aquatic life is like deathly afraid of technology, or like, I don't know. Whatever we do, we can just like embed magnets in the thing that we want to use to like push it. So like we'd have like fishing rods with uh magnets on them. Oh, maybe it's just a fishing game. I don't know. Okay, wait. Before I put the new magnet in, I want to make sure it's facing the exact same orientation. Okay, so that means I want to stick it in like that. So I want them all to be facing the same way out, so that when I, like, anything I try to put on it can go on any of the magnets, right? So you want them all in the same orientation. So I know that that's how I want it. That's not hot nuts, so back. Oh, maybe it was. Okay, just push. Oh, it's pretty hard. I'm gonna have to get that one out, actually. It didn't go in at a good angle. Wait, maybe I could just... Nope, I gotta get that out. Okay. If you're getting a magnet stuck, just wiggle it. Try to grab it by the edge and just wiggle it. Don't try to like melt the surrounding area to dig it out. That's just gonna make it worse because it's gonna get even more stuck. And I learned that the hard way. Again, I'm not center frame. You know, I don't need a magnet that close to another magnet, do I? Is that just too many magnets like right next to each other? Oh, what the heck. Wait, did I? Okay, yeah, this direction. Get in there. Get in there. Oh, yes. A fishing game sounds super cool. You could fish out garbage out of the spikes on the pufferfish or something. Ah. Right? Like, he's getting stuck to all this, like, floating pollution. Oh, this magnet's weird. It's, like, got a mind of its own. I think it's trying to point north or something. Look at that. It's moving. But, like, then it stops by itself. Whoa. Oh, wait. Was I doing that? Oh. Oh. Nope. I think what we'll have to do is whatever we put this on, it's got to be, like, basically pretty embedded in there so that the other side that wants to connect, like, that is attracted to this magnet side. Sorry, that's not what I meant. Reverse that. The thing that we're going to use to push the fish away, I think the more magnets we put in this fish, the easier it'll be to push. And also if it's in the water. Oh man. This is going to be so fun. Look at that move. It's alive. Sorry. I don't know why I'm apologizing. This is a whole part of the process, right? It's a toy. You got to play with it to figure out if it's working. It's like people who work at a brewery, right? I'm sure they have a few work drinks. I mean, drink during work, and then they can pass it off as like, oh, we're just taste testing. So I'm just play testing. I'm working very hard right now. I'm working very hard at play testing. Okay, I didn't mean to embed it like completely. I still want to see it because I want to know like where the heck it is. Okay. Oops. Okay. Just scratch it off. And the funny thing is, I only noticed this after I started working with magnets, but the pigments that I use to color my wax are iron oxide pigments. So iron oxide pigments, they're basically from like metallic substances, because, you know, iron oxide. And because of that, if you like keep melting the wax around the magnet, it will start to pull all those tiny like metal pigments to the surface of the magnet and pull it away from the wax. So what you end up is, and this is why I'd say Relix is still not a perfect formula. It's because it has this issue where when you keep sculpting at it, and if it's near any like magnets, and this isn't really an issue, it's more just a quirk. But if you kept like heating up this wax that's on top of the magnet, it gets lighter and lighter because all the pigments get sucked out of the wax into the magnet, and so the surface is wax without pigment. So I don't know if you can tell because the lighting, but it's actually lighter now, and that's because all the pigments got sucked out of it and got stuck to the surface of the magnet, and the wax that's on top is like basically unpigmented. Not a big deal. It's just a little confusing when I first saw it. I was like, what is going on here? And I remembered, oh yeah, magnets, metal pigments. And anyone who's seen some of my stuff or heard about what I've been doing or might have visited my Patreon would know that I've been really stuck on this whole pigment problem. Like it's really bugging me that I can't figure out a way to, like, the magnet thing is neither here or there. Like, I don't really care about that portion. It's just that the way the color is, if you keep heating the wax long enough, colors will start to sink to the bottom. And that's just because the pigments, they just separate out from the wax. You can mix it up again and then it'll be uniform color again. But it just kind of sucks that it will do that after a while of just being heated. It doesn't really happen that much, but I like compared it to other like commercial waxes out there. And I think it's just because they use some kind of pigments that are just meant to bond with wax. And those pigments are, from the research I've done, all seem to be synthetic and produced from petroleum-based like pigments or something. And I just didn't want to go that route. I wanted to keep it as natural as possible, but doing that means having some issues that I can't solve with just the natural ingredients. But these aren't that big of an issue, it's just a color thing. At the end of the day, it's just wax. Like, this is not the final color, this is not the final piece, you're just gonna mold it or whatever. So I don't know. Okay, that's good to hear. Yo, what's up? I just got on stream. What have I missed? Not much. But actually, yeah. So I spent the first 20 minutes of the stream not realizing my mic was muted. So that was fun. But it's okay because I just talk to myself anyway while I stream or do anything for that matter. But while I was doing that, I reworked the face so that now the mouth is smaller and higher up. The eyes are smaller and higher up. And I just think it looks better that way. Like, it looks more like he has a direction he's trying to go instead of just being in this, like, I noticed like when his face was more centered, he didn't really have a direction in life. You know, he was just looking forwards but not really looking at anything. And now he's looking up. He's looking up at you. Well, from my angle, he looks like this. Like that-ish. Yeah. Sir, yeah, like I said, yeah, just, so, yeah, and then I was showing people, like, what happens with magnets and pigments, because the pigments I use in my wax are iron oxide pigments, and if you, like, melt the wax around the magnet, they actually start to get sucked towards the magnet and drawn out of the wax, and then you're left with, like, this weird, like, almost unpigmented wax layer on top of the magnet. And then I was talking about, like, oh, the whole pigment separation issue where if you heat the wax long enough, even in like an electric skillet or a melting pot, the pigments usually start to sink towards the bottom. And I've tried to add like aluminum stearate and try to thicken it with cornstarch to try to make it like a more stable solution or dispersion of pigments, but it's not perfect because heat basically cancels out. Like, the thing with heat is, what you think about is what the heat is doing is exciting the particles in that material, right? It's making them move like crazy. So even though I put stuff into the formula that's supposed to help them bind together, the heat is making them want to escape and not be stuck to each other and make it more like chaotic. And so that's basically like heat will basically break those bonds between the pigments. Not break them, but just make it easier for them, for the pigments to sort of like slip in and out in between. And that's an issue I've been working on for a long time, but I haven't been able to get past it, no matter how many like old patents and papers I've tried to read. There's a surprising number of patents about pigments and how to disperse them in like paint, cosmetics. I'm like, wow, like I never found chemistry interesting, but then I started reading these research papers and I'm like, they're talking about like freaking molar masses, and I'm like, what? But kind of interesting. So I don't know. It's all about perspective. There's a lot of things I don't find interesting, but if I can like relate it somehow to wax, I'm instantly hooked. I'm just like, okay, that's interesting. Another thing I learned recently that's related to wax that I never thought about is that some people like take like people who like assemble like electronics and stuff, or not just electronics, but like even like airplanes or spaceships. Like there's a lot of electrical cables that go into those things. Like I've seen pictures where it just looks like a whole like vine nest of cables. And what they do to like sort of wrangle all those cables together is like you could use zip ties, but they also do a method of where they take string that's dipped in wax and they just like do this special kind of knot and tie them all together, almost like they're like knitting the wires together. I don't know the name of this technique or anything, but maybe if you like searched up like electric cable harnessing wax wire, something like that, I don't know, you would see what I'm talking about. I'm like, huh, so people actually do this. They dip fabric thread into wax, and then they use it to secure electrical cables in like freaking airplanes and stuff. Like, I didn't know wax had so many uses besides getting rid of people's hair. You know what I mean? Just one like no, in case you didn't. When handling them, adding to what? Yes, I do wear a mask. But also, I know, like, you still gotta be careful. But I use so little that like it's barely an issue. Now, if I was making a huge bulk, like a huge batch of relics, I probably should wear a mask just to be safe because that's a lot of dust. What I'm more worried about, actually, beyond the pigments, and you just have to be careful with this. Like, test all the ingredients because who knows? So there have been no studies. I mean, there are studies, but no one has really had like an allergy to beeswax. Some people have allergies to wax or other stuff or cornstarch, you know. So if you're gonna make this stuff yourself, always test the ingredients on your skin, like a tiny like skin patch test. You know, like how they do like allergy tests, for, like if you're allergic to like a friggin' apple, which I am apparently. Copal resin or any type of tree sap resin is really, really, because at the heart of it, the resin, the tree sap, is basically the tree's immune system, right? Like we have white blood cells, they have tree sap. Whenever a tree gets damaged in any way, like the bark gets like ripped off, the sap comes out almost like a blood clot and tries to patch it up. And it fights against like bacteria and stuff that might want to like, you know, disease the tree. And because it has such antibacterial properties, it's really good as like incense, right? Like people burn it, people you know, just breathe in those good fumes, and it's like it smells good, and it's like clears out the air, right? You got sage and stuff, burning sage. But the downside is that because this stuff is so potent and antibacterial, antifungal, it's also very irritating on the skin. So when I use the copal resin, it comes in these like you ever see rock candy? It looks like little rock candy chunks. But when I use it and I have to break it up into little pieces and I get all this dust, if I get any on my skin, I start getting like a little bit of like a skin rash. It's not that bad because I think I've gotten a little like I don't know, used to it, but it still itches like if I get a lot on me, it itches like crazy. So that's the only thing that that's like the only ingredient to me that has like the most safety issue. All the ingredients, of course, you got to be careful, wear a mask, whatever. But the copal resin, like it can really like I tried the first time I tried to make wax, I was using a formula that called for pine rosin. I was like, okay, that's fine, pine rosin. It's one of the most available and commonly used types of rosin or resin. There's so many names for this stuff. People call it cacophony. I'm like, what? Cacophony? No, not cacophony. Colophony? It's some word like that. Colophony, resin, tree sap, rosin, whatever have you. But I tried using the pine tree rosin, and that stuff was no joke. I had the worst like skin rash on myself for like a whole week, just like on my forearms. The copal resin doesn't do it as much to me. It still kind of irritates me a little bit, and I'm not trying to scare you guys. I'm just trying to like make you guys aware, like if you use this stuff and you're like me and you have like lightly sensitive skin. My waxer telling me it's been an hour and a half. Has it been an hour and a half? Oh, yes, it has. Yes, we also use sap on our pancakes and waffles. Yeah, well, that's maple syrup, and that stuff is more edible. Why haven't I thought of using maple syrup? I've never tried maple syrup, have I? Holy cow, what would that even... I don't think it's the same thing. It can't be the same thing. Maybe we'll do a live stream one day, where I do want to do one where I'm like making the wax in real time so people can see like how involved of a process it is, and they can ask me questions as I'm going along about things that maybe I didn't think about that people might need more clarity on. But maybe I'll make a batch with like friggin' maple syrup and see if it still works. That'd be hilarious if it works. What am I doing? Oh yeah. Yeah, it's not that bad. I think it's actually more common than you think. I think a lot of people might have a slight sensitivity to it just because it's like it's not something you would normally encounter, right? Like who goes around touching tree sap? Where's my magnets? I should just leave them stuck here so I don't lose them, right? Look at that. Look at that. It's not coming out at all. Pretty strong. Sorry, I'm just like torturing this guy with magnets. I think I made that hole too big because I was going on a whole spiel about tree sap. As you can tell, I have like read so much material on this subject, like that even though it's been like a year since I really like made Relix, like because I'm just been using the same batches I made like a year ago. I still remember like all this stuff that I'm like, what is this still doing in my head? I thought I needed that space for like other stuff. Okay, so we're gonna make sure it's the same. Okay, orientation. Oh, see, now it wants to go the other way. Go. Okay. It's not perfect, but it'll do. Oh, I see. So they steam and boil it, and then most syrup has additives. That makes sense. I don't really... I think the only thing they do with... Actually, I'm not sure. I'm not actually sure how they harvest copal resin. But I've seen videos where they just like... It's a little... I feel a little bad about this too, because it's like trees are alive too, right? And we're like torturing them. But the way they harvest is that they have like these giant like they have these not forests, but like they have a whole, I guess, a forest of these trees that they know can produce this stuff. And they go and they like basically carve like they just like they don't cut them down, but they slice them on their bark in a way to leave like a long gash so that the tree will then naturally start to leak some of that resin. But they don't I think they try to be responsible about it because you're only supposed to like harvest from a tree like once every couple of years maybe, to give it time to reheal. Otherwise, if you keep doing that like every single day, it's just gonna die. So that is one thing I feel bad about using copal resin or any type of resin, that there is no better way. But if you think about it, it is also kind of good because businesses that rely on the export of like rosin will never cut those trees down. Those trees are golden to them, which means they're saving the forest basically. Like they're never going to cut those trees down. So it's like a double-edged sword, I guess. Yeah, that's kind of scary, right? To think, what if plants can feel pain? But you know what? I think they can feel pain because I just watched this, like, not just watched, but a couple weeks ago, I watched a documentary about fantastic fungi. It's on Netflix. There's this like really cool like topic where they talk about like one of the oldest organisms, living organisms on the planet is actually this gigantic like fungus that's like underneath the ground in some like forest in like the Midwest or something, somewhere, I don't remember, maybe not the Midwest, but and basically they found that like it acts as almost like a communication network for all the plants in the area. Like it's basically how the trees know if like there's some kind of danger in the area, like say there's some kind of bacteria or like some kind of disease that's happening to like some trees in this area. I think the fungus, like I don't even know how to explain this, but they can sense that and then they can like relay that information to the other trees in the forest so that they know to like divert some of the like the natural resources, like, cause, like the trees, they're always competing for nutrients in the soil, so they know to like, okay, that tree needs to die off so that that pathogen or whatever dies with it, so that the other trees around it can be safe. Like I don't know how to explain it, but it was just like so interesting to hear. Cartoon squid, yeah, I feel the same way. Like the thing is, there's really no rules, and the only skills I ever really had to learn were sculpting, mold making, and resin casting. And honestly, you don't even really need the mold making and resin casting that much when you're first starting out, because what you should be focusing on is just sculpting. And sculpting, you don't even have to use wax, right? You can practice sculpting with clay, paper mache, water-based clay, oil-based clay, doesn't matter. Or digital sculpting works too. Yes, fungus are definitely underrated. They're not plants. I think they're like their own friggin' like part of the animal kingdom at this point. Um, okay, we got 3 magnets. 1, 2, 3. How about push him? Oh. Oh, can we make him spin? Maybe if I put more magnets on him, make him spin. I can't wait to see this thing in the water. Like if this actually floats. I'm gonna have to fill up my sink later. Test it out. Might float. We'll see. Maybe instead of going around and putting all those magnets on, before I get too crazy with that, I'm gonna sculpt like at least 1 or 2 attachments to see how it looks when it like something gets put onto there. Michael Lyko. He hooks up modular synthesizers to fungus? I'm trying to imagine. That sounds really wild. Do you mean like well, what do you mean he hooks them up? Like, because I've seen people who like hook up like bananas to like electrodes basically, and then they can play the banana like they're like a piano. Oh, oh, that sounds even cooler. So the synth, so it's almost like the fungus. It's reading like the brain waves of the fungus or whatever, right? Like or whatever reactions it's doing. Oh, that's so weird. Well, how does he hook them up? Like, does he like press like an electrode or something into them, or does he just like put like a myoelectric like patch thing sensor, like sticks it on there? That sounds I'm gonna have to check that out. What is it again? Michael Lyko. It's such a great name. Michael Lyko. What was I gonna do? Oh yeah. Okay, I'm gonna try. Let's just go for a spike because I still like the whole pufferfish idea. And I like the spikes. Or what if we just left them in there and just sculpted a spike on top? Like, would it still be able to feel the magnet? I know like that would probably mean that we'd never be able to get that magnet out. Like if it was actually like a 3D printed thing and then, you know, you had the magnet inside, like how would you even get that in there? Hmm. Now I'm thinking maybe it's better to not be a pufferfish and just leave space so that the magnets can be exposed. And we'll just like call them like like little spots or patterns on them. That's really cool. Is it still gonna be a pufferfish? I wanted that, but maybe spikes can be in between, and then we can leave the magnets where they are, and just like, let me see what that looks like. I mentioned this earlier, but again, I apologize for not announcing my streams and just doing them sporadically, and then you guys are like always like in the dark about if I'm actually streaming tonight. I'm still working out my whole schedule with stuff. Maybe another week or two, and I'll have like an actual stream schedule set up. Like I'm gonna try to stick to the schedule, and you'll know like exactly what times I'll be on here. It's just a little too soon to tell. But I really do appreciate you guys just joining in spontaneously. So we send electric signals to move along with other functions. Fungus do the same thing. Ah. Man, fungus are really like, almost like, not people, but wait, didn't I think this might be true that fungus and humans share like a lot of the same DNA. Ah, I see. There's a toy idea in there somewhere. Mushroom electric signal toy. I've wanted to try growing fungus for a while. Like there's really cool, interesting types of mushrooms you can grow that are edible. And I'm not talking about friggin' psychedelic drugs. I'm just talking about like normal like mushroom for like health benefits. There's one called the lion's mane mushroom, which is supposed to help your like brain with memory. So like I think they did this study in Japan where they gave all these like people with dementia or Alzheimer's like a bunch of them got to take some supplements with the lion's mane mushroom, and so they did a control set who just had placebos and you know one that had the actual mushroom supplement. And the ones with the mushroom supplement, after like 30 days, their short-term memory got like really better. But as soon as they took them off the supplements and just gave them placebos, their memory just went back to like they just couldn't remember stuff as well again. So like it's really interesting that the fungus can like cross that blood-brain barrier and like actually do some good to your brain. Do I want this here? Here. On top? With the magnet? I'm kind of lost now. I don't know if it's better to cover up these magnets and just make this like a standalone clay wax sculpt that I'm never gonna actually like turn into something viable because you would need to have access to those magnets to do this. Thanks, guys. Man, the support. I knew I needed therapy, but I never wanted to go see a therapist, which is why I'm streaming. I'm just kidding. My problems aren't that bad. But you gotta live your reality, right? That's true. Thank you for sticking around then. Um, hmm. This is a weird problem. So I could make a spike that has a magnet embedded in it, and then that just goes on there, and then you can just switch it out with other stuff. That's probably fine. I always tend to overthink things like, am I doing this right? I start doubting myself. It's not good to doubt yourself when it comes to toys, because at the end of the day, it's like, who cares? It's just a toy. It's not life or death. I'm gonna make a bigger spike and try that. He has become a lot cuter. Thank you for noticing. And again, thank you guys for being so supportive on this stream. Okay, so I just like to knead the wax a little bit before I actually do anything with it, just to get it all uniform. Make sure the heat is like consistent throughout the wax, because any cold or hot zones are gonna make it like not very smooth to work with. So I'm trying to make a spike that's like big enough that like I could embed one of these magnets in there and it wouldn't look weird. And then I could put that on top. You know what I mean? Or is this the right direction? Okay, so I want it this way. And since it's still kind of soft, I can kind of cheat and not have to like heat it up. I'm just gonna. Oh look, it's a mushroom, guys. We made a mushroom. Talking about fungus and mushrooms. Now I'm gonna have to sculpt the mushroom. Make a toy out of that. Oh, a hat. Why didn't I not think of that? Lapis, you have so many like. Well, everyone here has such like good ideas for toys and stuff. I should really like get my Discord server set up. I'm like just so lazy. I don't want to like learn the ins and outs of Discord. I know it's not that difficult, but I would like to have a way that we could like keep like share our projects together, like whatever we're working on, and give each other like notes. Because like you guys are always helping me, but like I don't ever get to see your stuff that easily. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna think about that. Getting like a Discord or something set up, or you guys can just post links in the chat, and I will. But I would like to have something more permanent. It kind of works. Yes, we can vote on the hat. Top hat, derby hat. What's derby hat? I have no idea what derby. Let me Google that right now. Derby hat. Oh, that is very dapper. Yeah, either a top hat or a derby hat. I mean, we can do both. What's the difference? Like, that's basically making the same thing twice. Um, so this, I don't know. I think I need to bulk up the bottom a little bit, but let's... I'm trying to see what that looks like. Oh, okay, well now he's just a unicorn. Okay, just grab that. Okay, let's just look at that. So that just looks like he has like a piece of poop stuck on his head right now. Like it's just an enormous spike. Maybe if there were spikes all over that big, it wouldn't look so weird by itself. I don't know. But right now it just looks like he has like either a piece of poop or like a pompadour. I mean, that spike's comparable to this one and this one, so maybe it's fine. Oh, thank you, Lapis Blue. I don't even care about the toy stuff. Just that you said I was a man. I'm just really happy to hear that. I'm so manly making toys. JoJo, yeah. Oh my god, dude, the men in JoJo, like anyone who's seen JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, holy cow, like the level of testosterone, but also like the level of like sexuality between, I'm sorry for saying this if people find this offensive or anything, but the level of sexuality between the male characters is just insane. Like there's that one scene of uh what's his face? The guy who like shoots the bullets. The other guy, Narancha. Was it Narancha? Or was it somebody else? They're like on that park bench and they're like he's trying to like suck out poison or something, but it looks like he's doing something else. I was like, what is going on? Oh man, JoJo. Oh, I can't wait for the next season. I've been waiting for so long. This like whole prison series, it's really good, but it's just like killing me because I got into JoJo late. Like I only got into JoJo this year, and because of that, I had so many episodes just lined up, and I just like friggin' binged the crap out of that show. And I was like, this. It's just like it gets better and better every season. And then I finished like the last episode that came out, and now I've just been like starved of JoJo. I know there's the manga, and I could probably read that, but the animation is so good, and the reactions are so good. I know the art is really good in the manga too, but like kind of like I'm the type of person who likes to just like watch the anime. I don't have time to read. As if it takes that long really to read a manga. Yeah, it's not flush. So I just right now I'm trying to make it more flush to help with that. So that is thank you for bringing that up. So you have very good design sensibilities. I can see you have been you definitely have been coming up with ideas for a while. So yeah, if I get that Discord server set up, or if you have like a link to like anywhere that you post your work, feel free to put it in the chat. I will if it gets blocked for some reason, like I don't know, I have never I've never used that on the chat. I'll just like try to unblock it or whatever. Um okay, this is not it's not what I envisioned. I think I need to add like a let me fish over here. Ooh. Okay, I'm really looking forward to that. What part is it on now? I don't even know. Like I'm not really keeping up with the manga. A cactus. Yes. Like a sea cactus? Is that a thing? Oh, there's so many attachments ideas. Like honestly, you just can't go wrong with magnets. I have never seen One Piece. I mean, I've seen like episodes here and there, but I've never like watched it fully, never read it. It's just so like the body of work is so enormous that I'm like I don't know how I'm gonna get into that. I know it's really good. I know it's like probably the best thing ever. JoJo is very weird. Like it's like a very acquired taste because in the beginning I was like, what is going on? I was like, what's part one and two? I think are pretty good, but they're a little bit boring because they don't have the stands yet, right? I don't think part two has the stands. She's like, what stands? Once the stands come into play, you're like, oh my god, this is like JoJo gang for life. Friggin' the world cracks me up every time I hear it in any meme. But man, I really feel like, and not to like spoilers, but they really like nerfed. I mean, I get why they nerfed him, but Jotaro this season is just like useless. So useless. How do you go from like defeating? I feel like I'm saying too much, but like defeating Dio and then being like tapped out. Yeah, it does kind of repeat a lot. But if part 7 is as good as you say it is, so it looks a little bit better, but it's still not flush because if you think about it, these guys are round. So that's something to think about. I'm going to need to make this almost as skinny as the magnet so that it can be flush as possible. Because right now that's not, I mean, maybe it's not that big a deal. Like if you're looking at it at any other angle, it doesn't look that bad. He does. JoJo is just like so powerful, it's just overtaken this whole chat. But also, how do we have so many JoJo fans here? I mean, I know there's only like 7 or 6 of us here. But like, JoJo is a very like, I don't know, maybe it is more popular than I realized. I'm not that in tune. Anyway, back to toy stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna try making. Darn. Like, do I have to make the thing rounded as well? Guess I could. Let's try that. I'm gonna try to make like this mating surface, like a concave circle, concave sphere, so that when it goes on top of the round fish body, it doesn't have that weird gap. Yeah, I know. I brought up the weird hair. Yeah, that's exactly, yes, Gushi, that's exactly what we're gonna do. See, there's a lot of math and science that goes into making toys. It's engineering. And that's why it's so difficult to make something, right? Like, especially something that's going to get played with and like it has anything that you have to make that has to have a certain function and work that way or be able to work in like as many ways as possible to be like to fit like an idea of play. It's just so hard to make. And that's why like I enjoy the process because it's like you're trying to figure out a puzzle, right? It's like with puzzles you're like, okay, how does this work? How do you unlock this code or whatever? And you have to kind of understand like how it works in order to play with it. Okay, that's kind of what I'm talking about. And that it's not really there yet because we still have that gap, but it doesn't look that bad. Like if I just kept going with that and just put them all over, oh, it's getting, I have to be careful. This is getting too big to even fit next to the other one now. Okay, so let's shrink it. And I'll hold it with this magnet so I don't have to burn myself. Let's try to do it centered. Pimple crater. Oh, thanks, Kushi. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, where would we be without, technology? I always have to like remind myself like yes, like everything has its purpose and meaning. So sometimes when I'm making toys, I feel like maybe I should be using my skill set to do like things to help like actual issues, which is a very dangerous mindset to be in, because then you start thinking everything you're doing is like not like you have to have a purpose for everything, but it's not like that. The people, the things that need to be worked on already have people working on them, and I'm not saying that to be like, oh, like just be lazy, like other people will take care of it for you. I'm just saying like there are a lot of issues going on that we don't even know about, and there's already people like working on like amazing solutions for these issues. And a lot of the like technologies and techniques they're inventing have like multiple purposes as well, right? Like they have multiple uses. So it's like constantly everything's just hope I mean I'm just trying to be optimistic. I feel like everything will work out in the end. But only if people understand the importance of those people, right? You can't have people going around just saying like, "Oh, things will fix themselves," but then like they don't respect scientists or people who actually know what they're talking about, and they're just like throwing like lies and misinformation. Um. So anyway, how did I get? Oh yeah. So like for me, sometimes when I'm working on toy stuff, I do get into this weird habit of thinking like, oh, maybe what I'm like supposed to be doing is not this. Maybe I should be like, because I know how to like prototype stuff and you know make like a functioning thing. Maybe I should be like building, I don't know, like trying to help figure out more sustainable energy alternatives or actually doing stuff for the environment. But then I also remember like, okay, hold on. Even if I'm not working to like help save the human race from whatever catastrophes are coming our way, it's not that big a deal. Because at the end of the day, the Earth will be just fine without us. Um, so I don't need to be working on like the next friggin' Dyson sphere. You know what I mean? Yeah. If I do the creator thing, then everything has to fit in it. But I mean, it's not that hard to do a creator for everything. Oh, that's so funny. I just wanted to go. That's why I'm seriously considering just leaving the magnets like exposed so that it's like really obvious where it's magnetic. That's just really funny. It's like there's no magnet at the bottom, but it just gets drawn. It gets like, it wants to like grab onto it, even though there's no magnet there. It's just trying to find the magnet on the other side. Wow, these are really strong magnets. This is crazy. I do agree. Like right now, a lot of people are just innovating on stuff that already exists instead of making new stuff. But it's also really hard to make new stuff. Like we can innovate a lot faster than we can invent. That's why we have like the iPhone, like friggin' what? Is it 13, 14? I don't even know anymore. And yet, why don't we already have like, I don't know, hologram phones? All the people who are supposed to be inventing hologram phones are just busy innovating the next iPhone. And I don't know anymore. See, this is what I was talking about, right? Like you're working on something and then you have times where you like really like the idea and then you really like you get frustrated and you're like, oh. But it's important not to get too frustrated with that because it's like whatever. It's no biggie. It's just this one little hiccup I'm having where I can't figure out if I want all the attachments to have to deal with this whole uh flush issue, or maybe it's not even that big a deal. Like nobody cares. Like it's just a toy. Who's really looking at it like that closely? Like if there's a gap, there's a gap. What's the big deal? I think what I don't like is that it got so huge that now it's like overtaking the shape of the fish. So I think what I'm gonna do is back that off and just make it smaller. But I'm gonna leave this guy so I have it for comparisons, just in case I go back to it. I'm like, oh, or I can turn this into the hat. Look at that. It's a party hat now. I'll put like a brim around it and then round it out, and we can. You know what? Why don't we just do that? Who cares? Forget spikes for a second. Yeah, that's the other thing. I think leaving the magnets exposed actually might be the way to go, and just making all the attachments like just like on the side. So he'll just be like kind of naked without his spikes. But that way you have access to them if you want to mold or cast them. That makes a lot more sense. Because also if you 3D print them, how are you going to get them in there? You got to 3D print it, then you got to glue the magnet in. Right? So it's good to leave them exposed. And also we're in prototyping stage. Yeah. Yeah, Shelly, that's exactly what's happening. But that's why I'm going to make a hat out of this instead of a spike. Maybe it's just a bunch of hats. Like instead of, like maybe that's the funny thing, right? Oh, what if this is the new idea? This is how my mind works. It's like, I guess, you know how I have that Cloversaur dinosaur toy thing? Where you have like the back spikes that you pull out and see if it's a 4-leaf clover or 3-leaf clover? Um, what if we just like made a bunch of things to cover up all his spikes, and then underneath one of them is an actual spike? It's like he got all these spikes removed. It just kept getting like, they kept falling out like teeth. And then one day he was like, I'm just gonna cover up all these spots with like hats and stuff so that people don't know. And then it's like a guessing game, and you have to like pull them off, and try to find like the actual spike. Poke holes in the place of polka dots. Yeah, but I still like the bat toy and the magnet idea because it's like, look at how friggin' strong these magnets are that they can even repel it. Wait, repel. It's kind of hard to see. Okay, you can kind of see it. That. Oop. Anyway, I think I just ended up making a witch hat or a traffic cone. I swear, this guy's never gonna get finished because I just keep changing him up. I should just stick with one concept and then keep moving on in that way. So that's the fun part, experimenting. Like honestly, I'm not trying to get into this like mode of actually like I'm probably not the best person to talk to if you want to make toys for a living, because I don't really care about making like any money off of my stuff. Um, I just do it more for personal enjoyment. But if I really wanted like to monetize the toy stuff, I could. Just that the stuff would look very different. Um, like I might start thinking about, oh, I need to make this smaller so I can save on material costs, you know? Or how effective is the manufacturing method going to be? Like, what's the best way to mold and cast this? Is this even cost effective to mold and cast this? Maybe I should do 3D printing. You know, like all these questions come up. And to me, at the end of the day, it's like I don't even care if this guy turns into an actual toy or product. He might just sit on the desk for like years, and I'm fine with that. So in terms of like business and stuff like that, I'm really not the guy to talk to for toy making. But idea wise, I can make a lot of weird ideas. Like that's my skill set. I'm just the idea guy. I'll make a lot of weird stuff and then see if it works. If it, and that's actually how it works, right? Like you try a bunch of stuff and most of it fails, but then you get like one good thing out of them and then you go with that. Wizard Fish, Halloween's coming up. Stopping by to say hello. Need sleep. Just want to let you know I've been enjoying these streams. Oh, thanks, John. What house is the pufferfish, guys? What? Dude, the pufferfish is a wizard? Like, you're pulling spikes out. You don't want to pull the deep spike out because it's like a bomb or something. Oh, yeah, like, kind of like the Pop the Pirate game or whatever. That actually, it would be fun. Yeah, I was just spitballing. I don't really know. I think I'm just going to keep it simple and just do the hats or other weird attachments that go on him. He's a wizard. It's a wizard fish. Okay, we're gonna leave that hat to the side. Yeah, I'm not gonna worry about the business jargon anymore. It took me a long time to unlearn that. Yeah, Halloween's coming up. I really want to do something skull or skeleton related. So I've never really sculpted a skeleton. But knowing me, the way I sculpt, it's gonna be very just cute looking anyway. So it probably won't be that hard. Okay. I'm just like too focused on making this witch hat now. It's probably not the best way to make this thing. Like, I don't think it needs to be perfectly round. You can have some character to it, like it's kind of raggedy. I'll figure that out later. Right now what I'm just doing is I want to make a bunch of rough pieces, test it out, see how it feels while I'm playing with it. See if I like that. Maybe I end up not doing the whole attachments thing and really just focus more on the whole magnetic play feature and just like you can just push it in the water like a bath toy. Whoops. Yeah. What if we made like I do want to try making a spike again because I do like the spikes. So I'm gonna make a smaller spike. Hopefully it won't look weird. And then I'll probably end the stream after that just because it's getting a little late. But I think I probably will be back tomorrow night. Or tonight, I guess. It's already past midnight. Yeah. I have a question. Do you guys like prefer watching streams on YouTube or Twitch? Because like I really don't know what's better, or if there is a better. I thought I was gonna do Twitch because it seemed like everyone was doing Twitch, but then now it seems like it doesn't really matter where you're streaming. It's more just like um, it depends more on like what's just better set up for you. So far, I'm liking how easy it is for me to stream on YouTube because I don't have to like everything's pretty much set up for me already because of the YouTube channel. Like you guys are here. The content is like what I have already. And all I need to do is just hit the button and go. Yeah, I don't really use Twitch. Like there are streamers I watch every now and then, but I end up just watching like the highlights of their Twitch channels on their YouTube channels. Like it's all my like subscriptions and everything. Like I don't, you know. Also, I just don't get the whole like if I ever do monetize the channel, I don't get how the subs and bits work in Twitch. Like, it's just so confusing to me that there's this whole like system. YouTube just makes more sense to me. It's like, oh yeah, there's an ad. If they don't want to watch the ad, they can get YouTube Premium, and then part of the portions go to them or whatever. Like, because I do want to like grow this channel. I just don't want to grow it in a way that doesn't like isn't true to who I am. Because I am not like the type of person who's just gonna be like, hey guys, welcome to like Rye Guy's Toy Channel. You know, like I can't be that person. Like, you see what I'm talking about. I talk about some weird stuff, and um I just ramble a lot. Like, I don't think I'm that type of like personality, you know? So I think because of that, I'm probably just more niche, and I'm fine staying that way. But I do want to grow the channel and get it to a point where it's self-sustaining. And then maybe at that point I could actually focus on working on like the business side of things and producing, like getting, like, even if I don't have the time or energy to produce the relics, if the channel was self-sustaining, I could then like hire people or hire some like factory to produce it that I would train and like show them like, okay, this is how you do this, and you mix this, you do that. I don't know how factories work. I assume that's how they work. I saw like some video about this person who like, oh, I forget the name. I think I was watching like the Wormwood woodworking YouTube channel, and then they were doing some collaboration with this woman who runs like a successful resin dice campaign, and how she had to set up her own factory and teach them how to do it herself, because like she didn't like anything that the current factories, like how they produced the dice. She's like, I'm just gonna do this myself. Twitch has more paywall stuff. YouTube for sure. Okay, sounds like YouTube is the one for everyone here, so I think I'm just gonna stay on YouTube. Yeah, like there's all these things like TikTok and even Instagram, like, although Instagram is one of the OGs as well, but I don't even use Instagram that much anymore. Like, it's hard for me to just post a picture. I gotta then import the picture to my phone, or I gotta take a picture on my phone, then I gotta like edit it. I'm just not very good about social media, but YouTube is pretty easy. Because I'm constantly on YouTube anyway, watching videos about wax. Actually, no, that's not what I'm watching. I'm watching clips from JoJo. Okay, yeah, I don't know if the spike thing's gonna work, because I've made like 2 spikes now, one a little bit bigger, but I still don't see any way I'm gonna fit a magnet in this spike and have it not look crazy big. So now I'm thinking maybe just putting the spikes in between, or like all around, maybe removing this magnet, leaving a spike here, and then leaving these 2 magnets so that things can get stuck on there. I don't know. Like, I don't mind having the magnets exposed and having just random spikes here or there. But since it's a pufferfish, it's going to want a lot of spikes, and they may get in the way of the magnets. But maybe that's okay. Maybe that's what you want. So it looks like the stuff is getting stuck to the spike and not the magnet, right? Because like if I leave these on here, and then like I would, like, even though this can't technically physically fit there anymore because of the attraction of the magnets, it will somewhat stay in that vicinity. And then like say I put it here, I don't know, it doesn't look like it's getting stuck on the spike though, which makes sense because the spike isn't over the magnet. But okay, what if I cover the magnet, or just I know this is gonna kill the whole manufacturing method. Whoa. Okay, that spike just launched into the ether. I got a question. What tools do you recommend for working with wax, and what brands, if it matters? So I have this tool, which is really useful. It's a wax carving tool. And I like this more than a wired tool, because wired tools tend to bend really easily when you're working with something as hard as wax. If you've heated the wax, they're fine for it, but it will get tougher. And this is a Kemper tools. Oh, it's kind of hard to see with that. Oh, Kemper, Kemper tools. They probably have a lot of good stuff. But it doesn't really matter. Like, I really only use a couple tools, which are like, I have all these tools here, but a lot of them were gifts that people got me, and so I don't really use them that often. They're very like specialty. But this is like from these are like jewelry makers like tools. These are really good. You can definitely get these. They're not cheap. I was lucky enough to be gifted these from a jewelry maker. But these are, yeah, wolftools.biz. I think that's still up. But these are more for like carving jewelry. They definitely work for sculpting as well. But they're not cheap. So any set of like dental, like you can just Google like dental tools. Like metal is metal. Like there may be, just make sure the thing doesn't have like 2 stars on Amazon or wherever you're buying it from. This one's pretty good because it's bigger, but it takes longer to heat up with an alcohol torch. That's another thing to keep in mind, is like a smaller tool will heat up a lot faster. You can be a lot quicker with it if you're using the alcohol torch or alcohol lamp to heat up the tool. And this is like just some cheapo thing. I don't even know where I got this from. It's like, doesn't matter. So if you're not using this electric wax pen, which is a KERR Care Ultra Waxer, then like this is a good brand, but you do have to be careful with the tips because they're kind of flimsy. See that like attachment? It's just that like that one little spiky plug. If that ever breaks, you're kind of screwed. And these tips are not cheap. Luckily, I've never broken this because I'm always like super careful. I say that as I'm about to like break it. Watch. Okay. But yeah, this has not failed me so far in like the whole time I've had this thing, which is like 5 years. But the foam has gotten a little worn out. And on another one, like the foam actually just like ripped somehow, and I didn't want to replace it because it was expensive. So what I just did was like I wrapped tape around it, so every time I use it, I like have to replace the tape because it gets kind of melted. So bogus. But really the only tools you need are something to heat the wax in, which is my electric skillet right here. I guess I could bring that into view so you can see how it works. How do you deal with touching the hot metal? Luckily it doesn't get too hot past like this point. It will, of course, if you keep heating it, it will, but you don't ever need to heat it that hot anyway. But yeah, if you're worried about it anyway, you can get, try to find, yeah. I forget what this is called, but it's like some kind of like wrapping they use for like, I think for like sports. It's some kind of elasticy, spongy like wrapping stuff. I don't know the name. I guess you could call it adhesive wrap or something, but you can wrap this around your tool. And not only will it like prevent the heat from getting to your hand, but it will make it so that you can make a better like contoured shape so that it's easier to hold. Right, because holding this skinny thing is very annoying. You can do this. Yeah, I got mine from Adam Bean Industries as well. But yeah, this has been really helpful. One thing to note though is that over time, this stuff, whatever it's made out of, starts to melt a little bit, or the adhesive in it like starts to leak out, and it gets like really sticky to touch. So you do have to replace this like once a month if you're using it heavily. But this stuff is pretty cheap to buy. This adhesive wrap. And it's really like versatile. You can use it to wrap anything. Probably use it to get like textures and press it into the wax. Oh god, the magnets just flying everywhere on my table. You can't even see it, but yeah, things are just flying around. But yeah, just like a couple, like really only just one of these is good enough. I don't like go too crazy with the shapes. I might have. They do. It's weird. Can't find that. Well, the tip, like this type of tool, but with like this kind of tip. You know what I mean? So just these two things will serve you really well. And then of course, you're gonna need like these sanding sponges, which come in like this kind of shape. So this is 3M. This is super fine, and honestly, super fine will get you pretty far. The medium is good for if you just need to really roughly rework a shape. So I use this for like more heavy duty stuff, but then I always go in super fine after. And they also make an ultra fine. But to be honest, the ultra fine like only gets you so far anyway. That the best thing to have to smooth sculpts is this stuff. Isopropyl myristate. This is manna from heaven. No. This is technically used for makeup remover, I think. But it's organic. It's safe to use. Just don't use it near an open flame because it is flammable. And you just pour a little in a little cup, like a tiny amount, because it's pretty aggressive solvent. And what this will do is dissolve the surface of your sculpt. Here, I'll show you. But this is what you would use at the very end, like when you're ready to like getting it to that final polish where you want it to look super smooth. Oh, well, here's another tool. This one's kind of useful too, actually. Kind of scribe things. I forgot I had this one. Looking for a brush. Where is my brush? Don't want a big brush. Okay. Oh, another thing that's useful, but this is just a nice to have thing. You don't really need this. Instead of cups, I like using these guys because these are like muffin tin. Oh, that's funny. It's green screen reflecting. These are like muffin or tiny like cookie tins. I don't know what you call them. You get them on Amazon or 99-cent store. But these are good because you can heat wax in them. Like you can just hit it with fire. You don't have like a good surface to melt on. And you just need to like melt something really quick. It's good for that. But yeah, you just take a little bit. See that? Barely anything in there. Just get some on the brush with your painting. And I'll just do it here so you can really see it. Focus. Actually, no, I don't want to do it on here because I'm going to be sculpting on this again soon, and this stuff will take a while to evaporate off the surface, and I don't want it messing around with my sculpt, so I'll do it on this guy. My screen, let's clear that out of the way. Oh shoot, his leg just came off. Okay, you know what, even better. I can just show you the leg. Yeah, that only broke off because it broke off once and I didn't actually put it back together right. I think it was like a stress crack from like when I was trying to get it on the first time, but anyway. You can see like it's kind of rough, right? Like I haven't really gone in and refined all those little crevices of the skin. But if you take this stuff, just brush it on. I probably should be using like a finer brush, but whatever, this is all I had at the moment. And you just like leave it there for a little bit. It's gonna start to dissolve the wax a little bit. And then you can always go in with just a piece of paper towel. I probably should have left it a little bit longer, but The other side, you can see it's already melted. Like I tried to do this earlier, and it's already kind of melting it and making it a little bit smoother than that like rough texture you're seeing. I don't know how easy it is to tell. Does the sand on the medium sanding foam break off and get embedded into the wax? I haven't before on the course pads. Yes, it does happen. Luckily I've always been able to pick it out. But that probably just is because this stuff is not that durable. And there's actually probably better alternatives to the 3M stuff. But it's just that the only one I found is like from Asia. And I didn't really feel like buying something, waiting like forever for it to show up. Or if it didn't even show up, you know. But I found this like really good brand. Maybe one day if I can get some, I can test it out and recommend it to you guys. But for now, I think 3M is fine because they're not that they're super cheap, but like they're readily available here. So it's like the barrier to get them is like non-existent. But you see, it's already like dissolving, right? Like, and the cool thing about this is that then it makes the wax surface like so malleable that you can like imprint textures onto it. Like I wonder if, whoa, don't spill. I want to see if I can get this texture on it. This is just a sponge. Sponges are good. You can always use a sponge. It's kind of hard to see, but I think it is leaving a slight like prickly texture on it. It's kind of hard to tell. Maybe something more aggressive. Like maybe actually the sanding sponge, but instead of sanding, now we just press it. You need a wire brush to clean metal files. Yeah. I don't like using a file on wax just because, like you said, you have to use like a metal brush. You have to like aggressively clean the files. They get so clogged up. But they're probably better for the environment, right? Because like, what is this stuff? This stuff probably can't be that good. But you see, like, it's a little bit more softer edged now. Like it has a bit of a rounder shape instead of just being like this like square, right? So yeah, that's what that stuff does. It basically dissolves the wax. But if you ever use it, you want to like really wait, like maybe even like a whole week before you mold or cast that piece, because you really want it to evaporate out from the surface of the sculpt. Otherwise, it may cause cure inhibition with your silicone, depending on the type of silicone you use. Tin cure silicones aren't as susceptible to inhibition as like platinum cure ones. So like Mold Star, like Smooth On Mold Star, that stuff's platinum cure. That stuff's really, really sensitive to any like contaminants on the surface. So you just got to watch out for that. But if you're just sculpting and you just want to do a quick like softening, and you don't care about molding or casting it, just use isopropyl myristate and you should be golden. That's already looking really good. I gotta fix this guy. That just cracked right off. Yeah, wax is a little bit brittle. Like I make my formula to be slightly softer, but it's still like with a hard knock, it will crack. So that is one downside to wax. Just trying to be realistic here. But I still think that the pros outweigh the cons. So I will keep on touting wax until I find a huge major setback to using, which I don't think is going to happen very soon because wax has been used for millennia basically. Because as long as lost wax casting has existed, like since freaking Egyptians, that's how long we've been using wax to sculpt stuff. So I don't think it's going anywhere. But look at what's going on now with AI and everything and Dali, and you don't need to be an artist anymore. You just plug it into a computer, just tell it what you want, and it'll make a masterpiece, right? Who knows? Who knows where wax will be in like 5 years? No, it's not going anywhere. It's like clay. Like, could you imagine people giving up clay just because there's digital sculpting? No, right? Or paint just because there's Photoshop and Procreate? It's just not gonna happen. You just can't beat that sense of actual feel and how things actually work in the real world, how the pigments behave on the paper, or how the clay works in your hands. And that's probably why, even though I can do 3D modeling and stuff, I always prefer to sculpt things by hand. At least these things, like the spinning tops, I usually like doing 3D modeling for because they need to be perfectly round and everything. But I'm just sculpting a character. I just like trying to figure out something fun. Wax is really the way to go for me, even if it takes a lot longer. Paint can be poisonous. It really can, especially oil paints, right? Or spray paint. Yeah, even wax can be poisonous. I mean, I did try eating a little bit once just to see what would happen, and it was a tiny, tiny piece. I just like put it in my mouth, chewed on it a little bit, and then I swallowed it. It was like gum. And if you think about it, if you look at the ingredients for gum, there's wax on them. There's carnauba and candelilla. They use wax in gum. And kids swallow gum all the time and they're fine. And like the other additives, right? Copal resin, we already agreed that copal resin is tree sap, and tree sap is just maple syrup but boiled, so that should be fine. Aluminum stearate is basically a type of salt. And I now use magnesium stearate instead of aluminum stearate. And magnesium stearate is actually an additive that they put in pills to make them lubricate so that they like get into your body and then dissolve at the right amount of time so that whatever, you know, pill you're taking, it actually like gets released into your bloodstream. So magnesium stearate is also edible. Iron oxide pigments, I don't know. Like, is this a Magneto situation where we're getting metal in our bodies? I hope not. But we already have like forever chemicals and all these like BPA or whatever plastics in our bloodstream. Talc. Yeah, everything has like some kind of synthetic chemical at this point, so honestly, if a kid ate like a bit of wax, I wouldn't be that worried. And there's cornstarch in it, for God's sakes. Like, this is basically food. No, it's not. I think I'm gonna end the stream here tonight. I know I didn't get like a ton of stuff done, but I think we found a good direction. And I'm gonna think on the whole spike situation because I don't know. I might be overthinking it. Maybe it's not that big a deal. Maybe we just turn him from a pufferfish into a regular fish and just have the magnets exposed. And then he can wear all the hats he wants. So it's really not a big a deal. I'm just happy that I got to take some time and talk to you guys and hear your thoughts and share my thoughts. And like this was really like these are always really good brainstorm sessions, honestly. And once I get like some kind of I'll be honest, I don't know if I will, but if I ever do get some kind of Discord server set up, then we can share ideas a lot more freely there, even when I'm not streaming or I don't have time to stream. And you guys can share your works so that we can all like work together on them together, just like we're doing right now. So thank you guys for being here and helping me. Okay, I'm gonna end the stream here tonight. Yes, he does look like a gobstopper. I always wanted to try a gobstopper, but then they weren't ready, as we saw with Violet. Yeah, these are fun. And also it's like I wasn't gonna do anything. I was literally gonna just like crawl into bed and watch like Day Shift or like what other like crazy Netflix shows or movies are out here. So you know what, I can be more productive with my time. So why don't I just like try to get a little bit of work done? And I always think like, oh, I'm just gonna stream for like 30 minutes, and here it's already been like, oh god, this is the longest one yet, 2 hours and a half almost. Well, it's a weekend, so I think we're fine. But yeah, thank you guys for being here. I kind of want to eat him. That could be a thing. Like, what if you could like separate in half. Kind of like that half toys thing that Shelly was talking about earlier, if you guys remember. Yeah, what if you could like separate in half? Or like slices. And then the slices could like magnetically attach. I don't know. There's so many ways to go. I think I'm just gonna stick with this program for now. And then next time we have a new idea, I'll just make something completely new for that. But yeah. Thanks guys. I'm gonna sign off for now. Good night. I might stream again tomorrow night, who knows? We'll see. Okay. Good night. See you guys. Bye.